Chair, you may begin.
Thank you so much, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm Councilmember Crystal Hudson, Chair of the Committee on Aging. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm joined today by my colleagues in central staff. No members yet, but I trust they'll be here soon. Thank you all for attending this oversight hearing on social isolation among older New Yorkers. As many New Yorkers gather with family and friends for the holiday season, we must recognize that for countless older adults, this time of year heightens feelings of loneliness and disconnection. Social isolation occurs when an individual has little or no meaningful contact with others, limiting engagement with family, friends, or community. Loneliness, while related, is the painful experience of feeling that one's relationships lack closeness or meaning. Both are linked to premature death and of disease, anxiety, depression, cognitive decline, poor physical health, and reduced quality of life. New York City is aging rapidly. It is now home to a record 1.43 million adults aged 65 and older, a 53% increase since 2002, making New York City one of the fastest aging cities in the country. According to NYC Aging's 2025 Service Needs Assessment, 22% of surveyed older adults report socializing less than they would like, and 17% report relatively high levels of loneliness. About 30% of older New Yorkers live alone, a share that rises to 40% among those aged 85 and older. Nearly 37% report at least one disability, with rates approaching 50% in the Bronx, factors that compound isolation and make connection harder. These risks are disproportionately concentrated among certain groups, including LGBTQ plus elders and older adults of color, who are more likely to live alone, lack family support networks, face discrimination in services, or experience poverty and language barriers, and therefore experience deeper and more persistent social isolation. We are grateful for NYC Aging's work. Older adult centers, friendly visiting, wellness programming, and mental health supports all play important roles. But as the city becomes older, more diverse, and increasingly socially fragmented, we must strengthen our infrastructure for connection. Today's hearing is about understanding how the administration identifies socially isolated older adults, how effectively existing programs reach and support them, and what capacity, coordination, and innovation are needed so older New Yorkers don't simply survive, but belong across neighborhoods, cultures, languages, incomes, and mobility levels. This is the final Aging Committee hearing of the legislative session, so I want to take a moment to reflect on how far we've come and to look ahead at the work still before us. Over the past few years, the Council advanced the Age in Place legislative package, a set of reforms designed to help older New Yorkers stay in their homes and communities by strengthening case management capacity, improving access to home care and to legal services, expanding supports for home safety and modification, and requiring city planning and capital systems to account for age-friendly design. Today's hearing continues that effort because social connection is as central to aging in place as housing stability, mobility, or access to care. I want to thank NYC Aging, provider partners, advocates, caregivers, and community leaders for their commitment to making New York City a place where older adults are not just served but supported, where they can remain rooted in their neighborhoods with dignity, belonging, and the relationships that make life meaningful. The work of supporting our older adults has always been personal for me, and I'm grateful for this opportunity to honor their countless contributions to the fabric of our city through this service. Thank you to my colleagues for joining me today. Thank you to NYC Aging for testifying. I want to conclude by thanking my staff, Andrew Wright and Elika Ruentan, and the committee staff, Chloe Rivera, Christopher Pepe, and Samuel Hamid. I will now turn it over to the committee counsel to administer the oath to the representatives from the administration. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, Commissioner. You can please raise your right hand. In accordance with the rules of the Council, I will administer the affirmation to the witnesses from the mayoral administration. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before this committee, and to respond honestly to council members' questions?
I do.
You may proceed.
So good afternoon. Thank you. It is the last committee meeting. So my name, for the record, is Lorraine Colte Vasquez. I'm the Commissioner of New York City Department for the Aging, and my pronouns are ella, and she. I'm very grateful for the opportunity to speak with you today. Great. I'm very grateful to speak with for the opportunity to speak to you today about the agency's unflinching commitment to fighting social isolation among older adults. Combating social isolation is a key reason the Older Americans Act established area agencies on aging, of which New York City is the largest in the nation, to create the necessary programs and structure which provide older adults with tools needed to stay socially, physically, and emotionally connected as they age. I want to acknowledge that this topic is being discussed by the City Council at an incredibly appropriate time when we move into the holiday season. Many older people, including many older adults, may find the holidays to be lonely, isolating, and emotionally stressful. NYC aging programs such as older adult centers, commonly known as OACs, naturally occurring retirement communities are NORCs, the Friendly Visiting Program, case management agencies, our caregiving, our geriatric mental health, our home-delivered meals, are all integrated ways of combating social isolation. They all have done so in their programs with specific standards as key components of their overall service. That is why we're so excited about the recent $9.3 million expansion for the caregiver program in the current RFP, which allows us to better serve all populations at the local level. To say the least, we take social isolation incredibly seriously. It is a motivating factor behind our programs and services. As we learned during the pandemic, social isolation can have large impacts on all of our health and well-being. Yet in older adults, as the councilwoman said in her remarks, this has a major impact on their health, which is linked to increased levels of heart disease, chronic issues, limitations on their mobility, and eventually could lead to death. Today, nearly 2 million New Yorkers are age 60 and over, which is in my last 6 years as commissioner, I've seen it has increased from 1.7 million older adults to nearly 2 million today. Welcome, council member. To nearly 2 million today. And as we've said many times before, we expect that number to increase significantly in the next decade. As the population of the city ages, so does the need for expanded services to help older adults remain in their homes, in the communities that they built, and to do so as they thrive with dignity. This includes a growing demand for caregiving supports and resources to address the epidemic of social isolation. Older adults are particularly vulnerable to the challenges like loneliness and financial security, which are exacerbated by the concomitant problems, like every time he puts that word in for me, concomitant, I'm beginning to sound like the president, concomitant problems like food and housing insecurity. This combination of issues, God forbid, strike me dead. The combinations of issues can worsen conditions such as depression and anxiety. In response, NYC Aging has been working to meet the needs with a particular focus on innovative solutions that foster connection. We recognize that aging in place requires a holistic approach. Underpinning all this work are two distinct NYC Aging initiatives, which is the Community Care Plan, which I am pleased that this council member has brought it to Community Care Plan 2, which brings together a range of city nonprofit services and outside resources to build an age-inclusive community for older adults. And the other is the Cabinet of Older New Yorkers. And again, I thank you, council member, for codifying that into law, which brings together city agencies to break down communication silos, identify gaps, and find tangible ways to improve aging services, which affect the lives of older New Yorkers. NYC's Aging's work is designed to provide comprehensive support where older adults live. Through our robust network of community partners, we aim to expand our services to better serve more of these vibrant communities. We want to ensure that older New Yorkers have access to the resources that they need to thrive. This includes mental health services and social engagement opportunities. Our goal is to empower older adults by providing the tools and connections necessary to maintain their health as well as their independence. We are constantly looking for better ways to calibrate and improve programs and services to meet the needs of this growing population and ensure they find the social and emotional connections needed to age in place and, again, to thrive in this city. All of this is done through a broad, interconnected network of community-based not-for-profits, which are incredible partners. It is obvious to us that older adults want to remain in their homes. All the studies indicate that, and the communities that they help build as they grow older. Our network of more than 300 older adult centers is fundamental in achieving this goal. These centers serve as community hubs where older adults live, where they can congregate, learn, and socialize. Our approach is to meet older adults in their communities by ensuring services that they need and want are accessible and integrated into the neighborhood older adult club as well. This aligns again with the broader community care plan, which aims to promote independence and well-being for the older population by connecting networks of services throughout the various boroughs in this city. These centers are the front line of defense against social isolation. Through diverse programming, we offer much more than just a place to sit or grab a meal. Our centers provide art classes, technology education, recreational activities, and a whole host of other programs of interest to older adults. We also provide communal lunches, which are often culturally aligned meals, with the goal that everyone feels welcomed and is respected at the table. These programs provide the social infrastructure necessary for mental and emotional well-being. They are essential engagement opportunities that prevent older adults from withdrawing from society, from staying at home and being alone. By providing these services, they can live healthier and more connected lives. We are building a city that truly embraces longevity as well as aging with dignity. We also recognize the need to provide services which are culturally and linguistically appropriate for older adults in the various communities throughout the network, a goal that this committee and our agency have shared since the early years of my administration. Our programs are required to know and understand the communities they serve and provide programming in appropriate language, but equally important, with an appropriate social, cultural focus. Welcome. Where am I? We see this diversity in centers which serve a multitude of Spanish-speaking communities, LGBTQIA plus specific centers, and centers serving Muslim, Asian, Caribbean, West African, and a range of other ethnicities and communities. The same applies to our NORC services, where older adults are further supported in their homes and buildings, where they have lived for decades. NORCs are set up to address and combat social isolation because of their unique position where they already exist in a place where older adults have found and set up communities. These include healthcare management through nursing services, civic engagement through interactions with case assistance staff, and working with housing management to address long-term housing issues experienced by the older adults in those complexes. Institutional care and to keep them in, these are key services which help prevent older adults from moving into institutional care and keep them in their homes and the communities longer. When older adults remain in their home and communities and receive the services that they need for daily living, we are succeeding in combating social isolation. We're also succeeding in making this an age-inclusive city where older adults can thrive. For those who cannot travel physically to a center, the risk of isolation is even more acute. NYC Aging addresses this through a multi-layer approach that brings community to the doorstep. Our home-delivered meals program is a vital component in this network of services. Not only do these meals provide sustenance to the homebound older adults across the 5 boroughs, but provide an interaction with a delivery person on a daily basis is crucial. Many clients have limited direct human interaction because of either health challenges, mobility issues, or other impediments which affect their daily lives. The CMA program evaluates and understands older adults' needs so we can better find supports that alleviate social isolation. Thank you for making it cold water. I really mean that. Case managers do more than just handle paperwork and coordinate benefits. They perform vital check-ins that serve as a lifeline for many homebound clients. These assessments allow us to monitor not only the physical needs, but the social and emotional and health needs as well. When a case manager checks in, they are often the first to notice if an older adult is feeling lonely or disconnected. This allows them to intervene early. We want to ensure that no older adult remains invisible or marginalized. We're fighting that on a societal level, just because they cannot leave their home. Meals are still a part of this equation, and we continue to hit milestones in meal delivery, with a record number of more than 10 million meals served to older adults throughout the 5 boroughs. This includes the 6.1 million meals served at the 300 plus OACs in the network, and the 4.2 million meals delivered by our home delivered meals providers. That means there are 10 million interactions with older adults over a meal, and everyone represents an opportunity that the agency has taken to address and alleviate social isolation. Hi. Because we recognize the vulnerability of older adults to become socially isolated, NYC Aging operates the Friendly Visiting Program, which is available to homebound clients through our case management agencies. Through the 9 providers across 5 boroughs, case managers can identify a client who is lonely and then refer them for an assessment where they are matched with the volunteer who fits their specific needs. The volunteers undergo background checks, training, and commit to be in the program for at least 6 months so that they can forge relationships. A coordinator monitors these matches to ensure the older adult is happy and safe. Volunteers visit and speak with the homebound older adults in the program, where they share interests and build friendships, which ultimately limits social isolation. We are currently recruiting new volunteers, especially in areas with shortages like the South Bronx, and encourage anyone who is interested in serving as a volunteer to call Aging Connect to begin the process of joining this incredible program. These interactions are not just a phone call. They also often blossom into lasting friendships that bridge generational gaps. It significantly reduces feelings of loneliness for other people who might otherwise go days without a conversation. We have seen firsthand how a simple weekly visit can completely change the outlook of an older adult. It gives them something to look forward to and reminds them every time that they're a valued part of our city. This focus on connection extends to our mental health programming as well. Placing licensed clinicians in our centers makes it easier for older adults to get help without the stigma associated with seeking therapy. By coming into an OAC, an older adult will be able to access a hub of services, all of which are part of our effort to reduce social isolation. If they don't want to come into an OAC, they can schedule mental health counseling over the phone or by calling Aging Connect, who will connect them to other programs. By treating mental health as a normal part of aging, we can better address the depression and anxiety that also stems from isolation. We're giving older adults the tools to process their feelings, to reconnect with the world around them. The goal is to be connected and ensure we limit isolation in every aspect of our program services. In conclusion, I am immensely proud of the staff at NYC Aging, the provider network, who accomplish this every day. We consistently are working to be more innovative and efficient in meeting the diverse needs and growing needs of New York City's older population. This population is very distinct than when the population existed with the Older Americans Act. This one is more diverse, speaks many more languages, comes from many more countries. Like you, we are concerned that social isolation in our communities and the ways in which older adults may be cut off from the bonds that strengthen their lives. This is why this administration has invested hundreds of thousands of dollars in an anti-ageism campaign to make sure that older adults are not invisible. You are the ambassador to combat social isolation. You are also an ambassador to stand up against ageism and break the chain of despair in older adults. We all are. We have to call it out when we see it. With your continued partnership, we can ensure that older adults not only care for, but are celebrated and respected. We want to ensure they have every opportunity to live their lives and the lives that they worked for and earned so they can thrive as dignified older adults. That is why a well-resourced, comprehensive community care plan should be a mandated service approach to New York City if we're going to be an age-inclusive city. We must also advocate for the same statewide. I'm asking each and every one of you to call your colleagues on the state to ensure that the state has a comprehensive care approach rather its tendency to a more medicalized approach. We must all become the activists needed to ensure we can achieve this goal. I thank you for your steadfast commitment to New York City's older adult and to your great support and unflinching partnership with this agency.
Thank you so much, Commissioner, for that testimony, and I'd like to recognize that we've been joined by Council Members Linda Lee and Chris Banks. I will start off with a few questions and then go to my colleagues. How does NYC Aging identify homebound older adults who are not connected to city-funded services?
Ask me the question again. I'm sorry. I was
No
looking
problem.
for my page.
How does NYC Aging identify homebound older adults who are not connected to city-funded services?
So as we've testified in the past, we have extensive outreach is done by every one of our contracted agencies. And we get referrals from a host of community-based organizations, churches, hospitals, doctors, and others. And that is how the city, the case management agencies get their referrals for homebound older adults. And then they initiate the assessment process. But again, I want to say hello. How are you? Welcome. I want to say that we first break if you're homebound, we break social isolation because if you're homebound and you need a meal, you're immediately enrolled, and the assessment process can continue. But no, everyone gets that meal if you're found to be food insecure. So we know that that's already a step in the right direction.
Thank you so much. And I'd like to also acknowledge that we've been joined by Councilmember Salam. What percentage of home-delivered meal applicants or recipients or friendly visiting referrals in the last fiscal year came from proactive outreach versus self-referral or provider referral?
So I'm going to try to answer that from this perspective. All homebound meal clients who are in the friendly visiting program have been referred by their case manager or someone else, right? This is all part of being integrated into the friendly visiting program, whether they receive a meal or not, by the way. And so while we do not track the clients that are referred to our programs, we do require that home-delivered meals providers and case management programs do active outreach in their advertising, as I said earlier. And funding has been built into their budgets for this. But to be part of the Friendly Visiting Program, it is a referral from a case management agency. It's not actively advertised to the public because of limited staffing capacity and volunteer capacity.
Okay, hold on one second. Okay, according to your 2025 service needs assessment, NYC Aging and its providers served just 12% of the city's older adult population in fiscal year 24. Has NYC Aging conducted any recent estimates of how socially isolated or homebound older adults in New York City remain uncounted or unserved? And if not, what prevents the agency from producing estimates?
I recently had this conversation with the state. There is something called staff hour availability and limitations. And that is what would limit us from reaching every underserved population. There's 1.8 million older adults. And the resources that we have and the capacity that we have right now is serving about 300,000. So if I were to look at population and base and extrapolate that there is that what the need is, we are way under. That is a major unmet need, and I'm trying to get the state to understand that from a population basis.
Okay, thank you, and agreed.
And I cannot resist asking you that we need to impress upon our state colleagues that the way every other county does a wait list is very different than New York. We're the largest county. Our 5 counties present the largest population of older adults in New York State, and that we should have special consideration or a different barometer than what they consider wait list, just by scope and size.
Yes, thank you for that. In a recent survey of 8,600 older New Yorkers, where 22% said they do not socialize as much as they would like, and 17% reported very high levels of loneliness, how many of those respondents were not connected to any NYC Aging funded program?
So the good news is that most of them were not, because we made a concerted effort to do the needs assessment survey from people who are outside the system,
Got it.
because we wanted to hear. We also heard that 33.2% of the people who took the survey had not even known about aging services. So, I mean, we met that goal, and it's an alarming fact to come back at you. But that was the goal, was to say, how are we doing for those who are not part of our services?
Okay,
Right.
so taking that into consideration, how many of those respondents were not connected? Would you say it's 100%?
I wouldn't say 100%, but I would probably say probably a lion's share, anywhere upwards of 50%, definitely.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to pause here briefly to take questions from Councilmember Banks.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good to see you again, Commissioner. Does the agency have any data on how many older adults across the city are living alone or do not have family nearby? And is this information broken down per council district? And if so, what are the number of adults for the 42nd council district?
We don't have that data. To get that data, we would have to work with other city agencies that get that data. That is not to say that we can't work to try to get some number close to what that would be.
Okay, and in my district, many older adults express the interest of volunteering and technology and other opportunities. Does the agency have a program that connects older adults with CBOs, elected official offices, or other agencies that are looking for volunteers or offering technology, refresher programs, or other opportunities to get them out and about?
So I'm going to parse that into 2 parts, right? The first is the volunteer part. The NYC Aging has a program called Silver Stars, where we can take former city retirees as well as anyone who wants to work. And sometimes it's really not work that people are looking for, but maybe volunteer opportunities. And that is part of NYC Serve. And so we do everything that we can to get people to volunteer. The other thing that we have is something called a CSEP program, which is the Older Adult Community Employment Program. That program is a program that then uses a lot of those paid older adults to serve as volunteers in the older adult club. And many of them start as volunteers at the club, and then, is that for me? Many of them start as adult volunteers in the center and then become CSEP programs. So it's one of those things that flows back and forth.
Got you. And I guess I'll go to some of the other committee questions. How does the New York City Aging evaluate, and this is on a different, I guess from a different angle, whether friendly visiting, home delivered meals, and case management are effectively reducing isolation rather than simply providing services to Touchpoint?
So I'm fascinated by that question because a service touch point is the exact thing you wanted to do.
Right.
You wanted to have a service touch point with older adults. I think the intent of that question is how do we say it's meaningful
Right.
and lasting? It is more than just a call.
Okay.
It is more than just dropping off the meal and tapping on the door.
Right.
It really is a connection to let that person know someone is here. And there's someone available should you need them.
And are all the older adult centers, are they required to do wellness checks or outreach during like extended holidays, closures?
Yeah, so
Check on.
That's a regular.
That's okay.
The one thing that's a standard in older adult clubs, and I don't think many people know it, maybe Councilmember Lee does because she was intimately involved in one, is that if an older adult is not present at a center for more than 2 days, there is telephone reassurance. You have to reach out and find out what's going on. You know, I might have just chosen not to. I might have relatives, whatever it is. But we have a mandate that the program has to connect to that older adult to ensure that that is not isolation or something even more serious at
Right.
that moment, like a health crisis or something.
Okay. And for friendly visiting, home delivered meals, and case management, how many older New Yorkers are currently on a wait list, and how long are they waiting on average? And how many are being turned away or closed out because of limited capacity?
So I want to change the wording from limited capacity to limited service hours and resources, right? The capacity and the intent is there. It's just that, a social worker has X number of hours available to them. And what we're finding a lot now is that even in that, the complexity and the needs are growing so that you may spend more casework hours with a client than you had in the past. So sometimes that reduces the number of clients. So it's this conflict that you have, like you want to give the person the hours that they need, but at the same time, but given the limitations of staffing hours, that you could only serve X number of clients.
And I guess this question is pertaining directly to maybe findings of maybe a caseworker, but hoarding. That's also, it's been a major concern of mine, especially with a lot of seniors, and what is being done to address that? Because
Yeah.
that's also kind of a determinant sign when when a senior is in the house, or they come out once a week and then they go in, and then the apartment is it's I'm dealing with a senior right now who can't even get into the apartment to get her the
we're
proper
fine.
assistance. So
Some people say I'm a hoarder.
what's being done by
but,
some of the CBOs to assist with that, to identify and then help them out? Because most of the time there's also there's no family involvement, or they've walked away in some of the situations I've dealt with.
So One of the things that I have to say that with great pride is the work that has come out of this cabinet. And the relationship with NYC Aging and Adult Protective Services is a lot stronger. And so that we are able to intervene at an earlier point than we had in the past.
Right.
Because there was two separate programs. The city, is known for that. You have the separate programs because they have specific client populations. But now because of the cabinet, that we're all looking at aging from a lens of how is it that we stop gaps and make sure that we start looking for other ways of serving each other and interconnecting, that what we say, no wrong door.
Right.
That there's a closer relationship, but it's a growing issue and it's not only for the mental health parts of it, but it's also the physical danger that could happen from living in a house where
It's cluttered.
where hoarding occurs.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Banks. And thank you, Commissioner. I will continue with some questions specific to this time of year. What specific steps will New York City Aging take this winter when isolation risks increase to reach older adults who rarely leave their homes?
I'm trying to think of how we do all of the precautions when we think that the weather. So I'm going to answer you from an OEM, an emergency management perspective, right? Which is when weather comes extremes, we take an incredible amount of time to do a lot of advanced information to older adults. We also work with OCM, they do that blast to every older adult. Home delivered meals programs have conversations in preparation. So there's a lot of advanced work done in inclement weather, right?
What's the information that they're sending to older adults specifically?
Basically, this is the temperature. These are the issues that you need to be aware of. You have to choose whether you want to go out or if you can go out, and that those kind of services.
And then how are they sharing that information with you?
Older adult centers share that information. OCM does that to older adults. We then send out a blast to
OEM.
OEM. Yeah.
And they share that.
OEM has a whole network of older adults that they connect with.
Right, but then do they share that information with you at all, or they just keep it
They're
within their
providing
agency?
information. They do that in concert with us.
Okay.
All right? So they tell us bad weather's coming. They have their communication systems, and we have additional communication systems so that we make sure that information gets out to older adults, right?
By phone or text or?
A lot of it is by text.
Okay.
Some of it is by phone. All of it by phone.
All of it's by phone. But so are people opting in to receive this information, or OEM has some sort of list?
Yeah. OEM has like a whole battery of ways that they do it, and then we do it through the older adult centers.
You do it through the older adult centers, and then they're sending the information to their participants,
to their
clients.
Right.
Okay. So, what percentage of your clients and/or of older adults? Because it sounds like this is going to both that network of the 300,000 people, right,
Yeah.
that are in your network, and then also through OEM, maybe to some people who've opted in that are not within the NYC Aging Network. Do you have any sense out of the 1.8 million older New Yorkers, how many are receiving those messages?
I can't give you that. I can see if we can unearth a way of finding that number.
Okay.
But I don't know that number.
Okay. All right.
But
Thank
I
you.
can
And
tell you
sorry, I
that
think
every home delivered meal client and every case management agency social worker gets in touch with their client base also.
Okay. And are there circumstances under which one would not receive a home delivered meal?
It would have to be for the city to shut down, because usually, depending on what the climate situation is,
Yeah.
we either will deliver 2 meals in advance,
Right.
or deliver one meal. We don't, and then, then there's Mother Nature, right?
Right.
But to the extent that we know that this will be a duration of 2 days or so, we then plan accordingly with
Got it.
the agencies to address that.
Okay, great. I believe I interrupted you, and my apologies. But
No.
did you have something else you wanted to say on that?
If I did, I forgot it.
Okay, not a problem. Does NYC Aging have a formal winter or holiday high risk list or protocol similar to Code Blue outreach for people who are unhoused for checking on isolated older adults living alone? So, just meaning going a little bit further into what we were just talking about, is there a specific list of people who are designated as being high risk in inclement weather?
I don't believe there is. What? I don't hear. Yeah, that's right. That's great. We rely on and we believe and we trust and have total confidence that the providers know that the providers then respond in kind.
Okay, so there's no like internal or centralized
No.
high risk list. Okay. Is NYC Aging coordinating with the New York State Office for the Aging's Winter Wellness and Get Set Up initiatives so that socially isolated older adults are proactively referred to those virtual social engagement offerings rather than simply being told they exist?
Right. Yes.
Yes,
we
you're
do.
connecting them, you're saying.
Whenever they want to cooperate with us.
How is NYC Aging coordinating outreach with hospitals, EMS, NYCHA, property management, and Medicare and Medicaid managed care plans to identify isolated or at-risk older adults?
That work through the cabinet has been what has connected these agencies and that no wrong door approach.
Okay.
So all that to say is that it applies in social isolation also.
Okay. Any other questions from other colleagues? Okay. How does NYC Aging assess whether mobility limitations, such as ambulatory disability or lack of safe sidewalks, are preventing older adults from participating in older adult centers or community programs?
Yeah, again, I'm going to go back to the work of the cabinet. One of the things that we've been working with Department of Transportation is precisely on that. And we're really happy with the number and the increased number of audits done by, is that what you're asking about? The number of audits done by the older adults in communities that will help the Department of Transportation engineers know what some of the issues are so that they could be age inclusive.
Are older adult centers proactively reporting these types of issues?
I can't answer that. I don't believe so. But here's what I do know: we have had 29 town halls, and that has come up in every town hall. And so we've been very proactive with the Department of Transportation to say these are the things we would like. And the last request we've made to our sister agency, which they're working with us on, is to start looking at curb cuts, making sure that the repair and the management of curb cuts is there. We've also asked for no standing zones in front of an older adult center so that they can have egress and access easily.
Could also be senior housing.
And
as well,
we didn't
like-
include that, but that's,
Yeah, 'cause
we
there are a
could
lot of-
look at
there are
that.
a
And
lot
then
of
we looked at it
building.
for every older adult center. We've been asking for a curb cut. I don't think we're going to be very successful in that one, but we will, we're working really on the no parking zone, at least during particular hours, the way that we do in schools.
Would you be open to expanding that ask to senior housing buildings rather than just
Oh, yeah,
OACs?
sure.
Okay. Great. Does NYC Aging track how many older adults stop attending programs due to mobility decline, fear of falling, or lack of accessible transportation?
The older adult centers are the front line, as well as the case management agencies, and they would know. And that is when, it's interesting because that is when we started seeing a decline in people who were participating in NORCs because of physical decline, and those were in building structures. So it's one of the things that frontline staffers are well aware of. It's for the population that we know.
And are they communicating that to the agency?
Do we get that on a regular basis? What?
So that the issues could be addressed?
Yeah, we don't track it, but that is not something that we can't consider.
Okay. Great. All right, two more questions, and then I'm going to turn it over to Councilmember Salam. What coordination exists between NYC Aging, DOT, and MTA Accessoride to address transportation-related isolation? Or stressor
Yeah.
as it's
What do
more,
we,
more
we call it
colloquially known.
inaccessible, right? It's been less than stellar. What we have asked in one of our legislative asks is to have a liaison, just like we have with NYCHA, with New York City Public Housing Authority, so that we could fast track some issues and concerns. I can tell you, I have 2 employees at NYC Aging. I don't have any employees. They are 2 employees at NYC Aging. And it is at least 2 out of the 5 days that they work, that they're waiting 2 hours. And they are already on a regular schedule.
Right.
So I could only imagine someone who's not on a routine schedule. It is, we've written letters, but I believe
Held a hearing.
that one way to address that is to have a strong liaison with MTA, Accessoride Program, and NYC Aging, and that they should be in the cabinet. And then so that we could really address those in an integrated way. Older adults in New York City depend on paratransit, and that paratransit needs to be reliable and also have staff that's trained.
Right. What seasonal adjustments, for example, during icy months, does NYC Aging make to ensure homebound older adults remain connected to services and wellness checks? And I'm sure I know you learned lots coming out of the pandemic in terms of keeping people connected and engaged.
The expansion and the enhancement of friendly visiting is one. We come up with, and I think it's still in a pilot stage, and I'll get you more information on that before the end of the year, of a system where we track the drivers so that the older adult will know when the meal is coming. But not only that, do we track the driver and the meal delivery, but that also gives us information on the connection with the older adults. And so we're looking at that system. I believe that it's in a pilot stage. But right now it's all, depending on paper, and we're trying to improve this client database system that we have to something called Vive, which is more interactive.
Right. Okay, I'll turn it over to Councilmember Salam, and then I'll come back. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. This one? Okay. Okay.
It's like the one random microphone that doesn't light up.
I should use this one. All right.
Yeah.
That sounds a little bit better. Thank you, Chair. Harlem's older adult population includes large migrant populations of African American, West African, Latinx, and Caribbean communities, many of whom face cultural or linguistic barriers when seeking services. My question is, what specific steps is DIFTA taking to ensure that Harlem-based older adult centers, NORCs, and case management programs provide culturally appropriate programs for multilingual outreach that actually reaches LEP older adults or remain socially isolated?
Thank you for that question. It's a great question. So in partnership with this council, and a value that we had and was just strengthened by the commitment with this council, is that all programs have to respond to the cultural and linguistic needs of their community. And particularly if you have dietary special needs, if you have kosher or halal needs, those have to be addressed. And that is an important piece of it. So we ensure with our partners in the network, and I have a lot of confidence in them that they abide by that and provide the services that relate to the population that they serve. But I think the mandate is 15%. But it's is that the mandate? 20? Okay, great. So I just reduced the mandate. But there is a mandate that at least 20, they must, if there's 20% of the older population in that community, you have to respond to that.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, Council Member. How many older adult?
Excuse me, can I just answer a question you haven't asked, which a good lawyer never does? But what I wanted to let you know is that the change of Jackie Robinson has been working really well. And we were all concerned about the closing of that center temporarily. We've been able to keep it at its location and the service is going well. So I just wanted, I wanted to give you that information from before. All right, great.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Moving into digital access and technology, how many older adult centers have implemented the digital literacy program required under Local Law 82 of 2023? And what metrics is NYC Aging using to evaluate whether it is reducing isolation?
I'm gonna just I want to just verify before I answer.
Sure.
This is required. I thought it was required, right? Okay, so it's a requirement, and the requirement is that from local law is that there's 59, one in each district, right? And we're very happy that 230 older adult centers offer digital training and literacy programming.
230?
230, which is far beyond the requirements of the 59 of the city of the local law, right? That is not to say that more can be done in this area. This is one of those areas of growing need. And this is one of those areas that we see integrated and tied to financial security and workforce issues. So we're very cognizant of the fact that this is an area that needs continual improvement. But not only literacy, digital literacy, but also work-related digital literacy to enhance your employability.
Does NYC Aging track the number of older adults who can't access virtual programming because they lack broadband devices or digital literacy?
No, we don't have like a geek squad. We don't have that. It would be Best Buy gave it up, because it's so costly and no, we don't have that.
But just tracking the number of
Yeah.
folks who can't.
Well, what we do know is because of the effort that we did, the major effort that was done in this city to expand digital access through the NYCHA program. And what's the other program called? Link? Big Apple Link. Oh,
Link NYC?
yeah, so that we know that our ability to expand digital access has increased.
Do you
But
know?
there's still deserts.
Yes. And then do you have a sense of where those deserts exist or demographic groups where digital exclusion is the highest? And are you doing any targeted outreach?
We know where they do exist, which are in our NYCHA facilities, all right, and surrounding areas. I don't have where they are digital deserts, which is different than a digital desert versus an affordability issue.
Right.
And so, we look at the distinction of both. The affordability issue, I think it's a larger issue with some of our providers. Not our providers, but digital providers.
Understood. What plans does the agency have to expand access to devices, subsidized broadband, or in-home tech support for isolated older adults? And I'll scratch the last part since you said you have no geek squad.
We have no geek squad. We hope that moving forward, there will be another tablet distribution and expansion program for older adults, and that should be targeted to particular communities. We've saturated NYCHA, but there's lots of other non-NYCHA communities that would benefit from the tablet program.
Do you need additional resources for that?
I would say that there's no tablets available at this time to distribute, but I do think that it is a direction that we should be going in.
Understood. I would take that as a yes. For homebound and mobility limited older adults who cannot realistically participate in online programming, even with training, due to cognitive issues, sensory loss, or poverty, what non-digital alternatives is NYC Aging investing in so they're not left further behind as more services move online?
That's a great question. I do not have the slide. What? Where? What page? Yeah, we're all lost. We'll have to get back to you because
Okay.
there is absolutely no way that we have that information.
Okay. I will turn it over to Councilmember Lee. No problem.
Hello, Commissioner. How are you? Sorry, forgive me because I was trying to remember. When was the last time that the HDM contract the RFP was up?
The HDM,
Yeah, the case management one. I'm sorry,
the case
case management
management,
RFP.
the RFP was, I think, 3.5 years ago. It was extended. Huh? We're in what?
Year 2.
We're in year
Okay.
2, all right, of the 3-year contract. So it won't be extended till,
It won't be up for another few years, right? I'm guessing because it's usually around 5 years.
Yeah.
Okay. So just from the previous round of the case management agencies to the ones that we currently have, what was the increase in the number of case management agencies that are more serving of LEPC? Oh, sorry, older adults, and other folks in immigrant communities from the previous round versus the ones that we have
oh
now.
my goodness, that the
'Cause I know
number
it
was-
increased a lot, but I just was wondering.
Yeah, the number, we increased
it
the
is.
number rather significant. What? Now, I know, but that's not her question. Yes, we all have to serve those communities, but that's
Right.
not the question. How many are managed and run by communities of color?
Right,
and
or
nonprofit?
communities, or it could be like a mainstream Catholic charities, but that serve specifically in
Oh.
certain neighborhoods that are.
Then I stand corrected. Sorry for telling you that. All of them have to serve, no matter what. It could be a mainstream organization, but if that's the target population in that area, they have to serve that population.
Right. Sorry, let me reframe the question because I think you were originally understanding how I meant to ask it, which is compared to the original case management agencies that were contracted before versus the ones now, how many of them have more capacity, I guess, to serve LEP, older adults, or non-English speaking or immigrant communities?
Okay.
Yeah. Or subcontract.
So I'm going to
with
answer
groups.
that in 2 ways. The
Okay.
number of contractors that were ethnically, racially, and community based from before increased. I can get you the number that increased.
Okay.
In addition to that, all of them are required to serve the population of their particular community.
Okay. Yeah.
I think we had the common goal, I know we had the common goal to get many more that are representative and reflective of those communities.
Perfect. Thank you. And then my other question was, I know this is maybe a little bit out of the box, but in Chair Hudson's question about how are we capturing seniors that maybe are not part of the OAC system and how we are getting them into the pipeline. Because I just remember when I was at KCS, there were a lot of social adult daycare centers that were in the communities. And I got to be honest, a lot of those, older adults probably should have been at the senior centers versus the social adult days. And I know that there's a lot of stuff happening in that world with Medicaid and trying to get folks in their doors by
By our
offering,
approach.
right, which is offering all sorts
Which is
of
why
things.
we say to the state, stop medicalizing it. If you do more of a community care approach, you would have less of that in interest in clients from a per capita basis
Right.
than from a social need basis.
Right.
Right.
So I guess my point, a question is, have there been any attempts or overlap or ways to work together with some of those social adult daycare centers to sort of maybe do more education with the seniors there, and also have them let them know about the services that we all provide on the city level when it comes to OACs, as well as the geriatric and mental health centers and all of the other things? Because I know that, some of them are social models, not medical models. And then I know that the OACs fulfill other areas and needs that perhaps those centers don't. And so I just wanted to know if there was any sort of, from the top level down, I know that's more of a state issue, but yeah.
Interesting that you should say that, and maybe KCS will testify later on, because I just met with KCS on Friday or whenever it was, sometime this week. Can't be Friday because that's tomorrow. Their concern is a little different. Their concern is that at some point the senior adult daycare center refers them to the older adult club when they have to meet other needs for them. All right. And so that is a concern. There is nothing inherently wrong with the cooperation between the two. It's just that the intent of one is different than more, I would say, inclusive and embracing of a community care model. One is medically based. It's based on Medicaid reimbursement. And the other one is more in terms of a broader community care plan. And why we very pleased that under our former chair of aging was insistent and persistent and got a law that created an ombudsman at NYC Aging to really work with the centers and to handle some of the complaints that were coming out of the senior adult centers.
Yeah. Okay. Just curious, because I know that they have certain services that could benefit some of the older adults, even though they may not necessarily have to be involved in that side of things, and then may eventually end up there.
Right.
And then just wonder if there's some collaboration. Anyway, just that random thought.
There's
Yeah.
nothing inherently different that they should not be cooperating. I just think that if your goal is integration and breaking social isolation, you may have a broader view. I'm not indicting older adult day centers. They're necessary for a lot of the population. But they may have medicalized much more than
Right.
what was the intent.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you,
Boy,
council
the
member.
state's going to come after me.
That's okay. We're going to help you out and come after them a little bit too. So, how is NYC Aging evaluating whether older adult centers are meeting the language access requirements set out in the agency's language access implementation plan?
Yeah, that language access is of all of the things is not a concern in terms of NYC Aging. Our providers are very cognizant of that and very responsive to the communities that they serve and ensure that those language needs are being met within the capacities that they have.
Okay, so how do you evaluate, or what metrics do you use to ensure
There is an
they're meeting-
assessment question that deals with that.
Okay.
But remember that we've been trying to shift our assessment. This is another one I'm answering more than I should. We are trying to shift our assessment from more towards excellence. Is how are you doing it? Is it culturally relevant? In addition to just the language being preferred. Right.
But that's it's self-reported by
Yeah.
the providers.
Well, self-reported and observed also.
Okay. Does NYC Aging track how many older adults with limited English proficiency are enrolled in older adult centers, friendly visiting, or case management, and whether language barriers affect participation rates? And I guess more directly, are there older adults that you know haven't been able to receive services because of a language barrier?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay, your team is nodding no emphatically.
Yeah.
I need you to say your no with a little more
Yeah.
confidence than that.
No.
Okay, mental health and crisis response. How many older adults were referred to mental health services through older adult centers, case management agencies, or NYC Well in the last fiscal year?
I don't know. I'm going to have to get that to you.
Okay, I would love it for the last fiscal year and compared to the,
We don't, what? Oh, but we do know how many we have, right?
and I would love it for 3 fiscal years if you
Well,
have
we don't track referral source. So that's something that we may want to look at and consider in the future. But we track how many we have and how many are served.
Okay, yes, it would be great to track
Yeah.
referrals then. Does NYC Aging collect data on unmet mental health needs among socially isolated older adults, including those who are homebound or digitally disconnected?
No. I mean, why would we track an unmet need? Right?
To know that the need has been
our
unmet.
goal would be to meet that need.
Right, but you have to acknowledge first that a need has not been met in order to meet it.
That's fair. Yeah. No, I don't know that we do that.
Okay. I mean, I guess another way in saying it would be, theoretically, if you've identified an unmet need, then you provide,
Right.
fill the need. or
But
you
the
meet the
other,
need.
I'm just thinking out loud with you. The
Yeah.
other way of looking at that then is, what are the needs that we don't have the capacity to meet? So that might be another way of also looking at that.
Right. You're really going in on this last hearing for the, you just giving all.
You might
giving all
even
the
ask me an
information
OMB question I just might answer.
Given the well-documented link between social isolation and increased risk of depression, anxiety, cognitive decline, and dementia, what formal referral pathways exist between NYC Aging-funded programs and DOHMH clinical providers, and how often are isolated older adults actually being connected to mental health services rather than just social activities? The distinction between mental health
There
services.
is and Eileen, help me if you can. There is a close relationship with our geriatric mental health programs and the DOHMH mental health programs, and so that is a fluid, ongoing relationships where we really are integrated as much as we can within the capacities that we each have.
Okay. And how is NYC Aging integrating social isolation screening into case management assessments, friendly visiting, or wellness checks, if at all?
We do. That's
Social
what we
isolation
do.
screening?
Right.
Okay. What partnership exists between NYC Aging and DOHMH to provide geriatric appropriate mental health care, especially during the holiday season when loneliness spikes? Or are there any initiatives or partnerships around this time specifically to address social isolation?
I'm going to go back to the cabinet. In addition to our very good relationship, the one thing we're really proud that came out of the cabinet was the training of a lot of the frontline staff at DOHMH as well as H&H. And that training on aging issues was essential to a particular population that might not have had the familiarity with aging as well as the services. Is that what you're getting at?
Yes, for the most
Okay.
part. Many older adults are uncomfortable using hotlines or digital platforms. How is NYC Aging investing in geriatric competent, linguistically accessible mental health services that are embedded into older adult centers, NORCs, and home-based programs?
We don't have hotlines per se. Yeah, no, yeah. But I don't think that's the question. Okay, we have 88 mental health professionals embedded in older adult clubs. Of our geriatric mental health, we have what we call a hub and spoke approach, right? So you might have, the hub is the mental health facility, but then they're also embedded in 88 older adult clubs. But your question was, as I understood it, was what's the actual number? And we don't have, other than the 88, we don't have any other mental health programs embedded in our older adult centers. Is that accurate? Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to LGBTQ plus older adults of color, and immigrant older adults. How is NYC Aging measuring whether LGBTQ plus older adults who are more likely to live alone and lack family supports are being effectively reached by existing programs?
As with all of our other programs, and I don't know that I mentioned this before, we have a uniform loneliness metric to ensure that we're tracking the outcomes of our programs and services, all right? In terms of LGBTQ, early on, all of our programs are mandated to take the training and sensitivity and their staff, the first line on LGBT populations. And so being that is if that is a number of a population in a particular community, then they have to be prepared to serve that population in the same numbers as they would any other population. And also, I want to just thank you and Councilmember Caban, because we had our first meeting of the LGBTQ I plus population advisory council. And it is a really robust group of advocates who I know will help shape how we move forward and ensure that that population, particularly
Yes, thank you. That's an exciting development. 20% is the threshold for languages and LGBTQ plus.
that's included in, as all target populations are.
Okay. What culturally specific outreach strategies is NYC Aging using to reduce isolation among Black, Latino, and Asian older adults who face higher rates of poverty and linguistic barriers?
We use a uniform metric to test loneliness. What you just triggered in me is that metric culturally relevant? So I'm going to go back and look at that.
Okay. How is NYC Aging tracking participation and loneliness outcomes specifically for LGBTQ plus older adults and older adults of color, and what dedicated programming or funding streams exist to address their higher likelihood of living alone, experiencing family estrangement, and facing discrimination in services?
So I could answer that for the LGBTQ because it's one of the first goals of the advisory council is to look at that. Now, we would love to expand that to communities of color. But it's a resource.
So you're saying it's you do better in the LGBTQ plus space than you do in the.
And we have a goal with this advisory council to look at that in with more depth.
Okay, well, that's good to hear. I would question, what about those of us who check all the boxes?
Right.
And are we doing enough for them?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the heart of that question is cultural relevancy and competence and whatever metrics we have.
Right.
To make sure. But then that also is a question of the resources meeting the capacity,
Absolutely.
or the need, I mean.
Okay. Going to programming. Of the more than, you said 300,000 older adults served by NYC Aging and its providers in fiscal year 2024, how many received no ongoing relationship-based service, such as friendly visiting, regular group activities, or support groups, and instead had only transactional or one-time interactions?
I can't think of any who would just have a one-time interaction or transaction. If you're at a senior center, you had a meal, you had a class. If you were home delivered meals, you've had other kind of interactions. I can't think of anyone just having one interaction.
So 0 is the answer.
0 would be the answer, and I will be corrected. Are they nodding?
Look, I'm looking to see for any corrections, so I don't see any corrections.
All
so.
right.
I know Charlie's looking a little
I-
uncomfortable.
Yeah, it would be highly unlikely. That's what I will say.
Highly unlikely. Okay.
Bye, Linda. Happy holiday.
NYC Aging survey shows loneliness is particularly acute in some outer borough neighborhoods with limited access to older adult centers or recreation. Is there a plan to seed new social infrastructure like older adult centers, satellites, or mobile programs in these service deserts? And is there a timeline for that?
There isn't a timeline for that because that is about resources and matching capacity and need.
And as we identified earlier, you need additional resources.
We've identified earlier that the resources do not keep up with the needs.
Understood. You did tell me earlier that if I had any OMB
I
questions,
did,
you might
I
answer
did.
them.
I
So
just
I don't
had
know.
a
You're getting shy now.
a momentary lapse there.
All right. Data and metrics. What data does NYC Aging currently collect to measure social isolation among program participants?
Okay. It's the same uniform metric that we use on loneliness. That now we will look at it for cultural competency.
Okay. Okay. You'll apply what you use for social isolation to cultural competency, you're saying. Got it. How will NYC Aging evaluate progress over the next fiscal year in reducing isolation among homebound, immigrant, digitally disconnected, and marginalized older adults?
I don't know that we couldn't improve on what we're doing in terms of the data collection. I think what we can improve is what data we collect and ensure that we are doing it for all populations with a measure that makes sense and that's relatable for all populations.
This is, I'm just curious to know, one of the things I've been thinking about, and I think that the council as a whole has been thinking about, are automatic enrollment for certain benefits, right? And so I'm just wondering, in terms of surveying folks, and we know the population is 1.8 million people, you only have 300,000 of them in your network. And so I'm just wondering, have you given any thought to how to expand outreach in terms of, the government knows how old everybody is. And so is there a way that when folks reach a particular age that we can just ask them some questions?
Yeah, we've thought about that a lot. We've thought
More than me?
probably as much as you. We've thought about that is there a way, the way when you turn 18, you have to register, right?
Right.
And the magic of AARP, the minute you hit 47, they know to start targeting you for the next 3 years so you become a member.
Member.
And we've thought of ways of how do we do that to have the government entity send out a notice like, "Are you aware?"
Right.
And it'll be something we might want to tackle with the cabinet, but that's city agencies. What we've done so far with city agencies is look at no wrong door between us and SNAP and SCREE.
Right.
Try to integrate those, but those are quite limited populations also.
Yeah. Well, it's also like matching software systems and
Right.
data
Right.
collection.
And we
all
do
of
have
that.
memorandums of agreement for that, for particular things.
Right.
But I think what you are alluding to and what I would love to see too is a universal way that becomes automatic.
Right. And I
Right.
think beyond just informing people that they might be eligible for something or informing them about a particular service or program, it's actually enrolling them in said program or
But we
inviting
wouldn't know,
them.
but that might be a little more challenging, but it gives
your-
us an opportunity, right?
Yeah. And I think for your agency, it's a little bit different because there aren't necessarily specific
Income guidelines.
benefits. Yeah. Well, not even just income guidelines, but age. Like you might, reach out to every older New Yorker and say, like, do you know here are your 5 closest older adult centers that you can
Right.
visit for
Right.
meals and programming and so forth?
See, what I would envision, would love to see, if I could live to see that, would be that you would get a notice on your, 60th, 59th birthday.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to be eligible for all of these things.
Right.
Or do you know someone? Because now that's the other thing is like each one has one, right? So do you know someone who, and put that out in a public domain in a way that we've not had the capacity to do that.
Yeah, and I think that's great, but then I think at your 60th birthday, then we're actually just enrolling you in the thing that you're qualified to receive,
Yeah.
rather than informing you of it, and then you still have to do
Yeah.
the work to enroll. But I think we're saying
Yeah.
more or less
and
the
I
same
think
thing.
we looked at the feasibility of sending a birthday card out
Oh yeah,
as the first piece.
sounds like more resources could get you there.
But exacto. Stamps are now 46 cents. And that's $1.8 million.
I thought they were more than 46 cents. Are they
Maybe
just 46?
so. Goes to show you.
I can't remember the last time I put a stamp on something. So, okay. I want to get into federal threats. The city comptroller has warned that proposed federal policy changes under Trump, such as aggressive Social Security overpayment recovery and major cuts or restructuring to the Administration for Community Living, could significantly disrupt the supports older New Yorkers rely on. What is NYC Aging's assessment of how many older New Yorkers could lose or see disruptions to services if these federal changes advance, and how is the city planning to mitigate potential impacts?
The way we try to mitigate this is because of the degree of uncertainty. And what you get is pronouncements with no action, no plan. You have no idea how it's going to be executed. So it's very hard to plan around that. So the best that we're doing is trying to mitigate fear and concern. And with those things that we do know about that were certain, like SNAP, we went into action immediately and started saying, okay, how is it that we can provide more meals for those people who will lose SNAP, who will be food insecure? But in terms of, it is infuriating because you have these pronouncements and all they do is raise fear and
Right.
concern.
Right.
There's no way of how they're going to know who they're going to retrieve Social Security from. And it could be all of the immigrant people who pay into Social Security who will never be eligible for it. It's not knowing what the intent is,
Right.
not knowing, other than fear, not knowing how they're going to execute. It's very difficult to really plan around that, other than an educational campaign to assuage fear.
Well, could you identify specific resources that would be prioritized, let's say, for replenishing should they be lost?
It
from
it wouldn't fall under NYC Aging. If there were income supports that would be needed on an emergency basis because you've just lost your Social Security because someone deemed that they overpaid you, that would not be under the aegis of NYC Aging. but it's a matter of looking at working with our sister agencies of how are we going to address income support, emergency income support needs, and or income support replacement.
Right. Okay. If major federal reductions to aging services or safety net programs are enacted in the coming year, what contingency plans does the administration have, programmatic and budgetary, to prevent a surge in social isolation, hunger, and premature institutionalization among older New Yorkers, especially those already living alone or homebound?
So far, there has been no funding cuts to any of the Older American Act programs. So far, thus far, and we've not heard of any coming in the immediate future, which means that if we lost federal funding in any of our 3B, 3C, it would have an impact. But I just want to remind people, and I don't know how long we could sustain it if we feel the federal impact. The city pays 75% of the aging services thus far.
And given the increasing federal administrative burdens affecting Social Security, Medicaid, and other benefits, what role should NYC Aging play in benefits counseling and advocacy to ensure older New Yorkers do not lose lifeline supports and become more isolated simply because they cannot navigate new federal hurdles?
I think that the role that the agency would play would be to have some of our case management agencies take up, as they do, but take up a stronger role in being ombudsmen for the older adult and advocating on their behalf for some of these benefits.
Okay, and then I want to move into the caregiving RFP as my last few questions. Does NYC Aging plan to subcontract services for distinct needs populations within the single citywide caregiving contract?
So I want to address the caregiving contract as a whole. First of all, we're really pleased that we're able to bring in additional hours. One of the things that we've seen is that most of the target populations that we had in the 3 target citywide contracts were being really served locally. And so what we're doing is shifting the money locally so that they have more capacity. What we're hoping, can I say this? I can't say this because the RFP's out. The intent is to put the money locally, and while we have a citywide contract is for that, I can say that, about the technical assistance. Okay. So it's because the RFP's out and I don't want somebody to start embargoing it. And so what the intent is that the citywide contractor have the capacity to subcontract, but to be a technical assistance provider, as well as the citywide contractor's caseload was small. What they were was usually a support and a resource. What we're hoping is to bolster that, and in whatever targeted areas, and it's not just, it's for other impairments other than just vision. But that's the intent. The intent is to put more money out in community and build the capacity within the community.
Okay. Hold on one second. So let me just give an example. If a provider serves, let's say, a hearing impaired and
Black LGBT person.
yeah, right, and has like multiple needs, can you speak to how that provider might fare?
Right. Fare in the RFP process?
Right.
No, I can tell you about how we expect them to fare in the service delivery process.
Okay,
All right?
I'll take that.
So if the client comes in and the client has these multiple targeted needs, the provider needs to have the capacity to serve those,
Right. Okay.
whether it's through subcontracting or whatever. Our goal is to make sure that that local provider has the ability to do that because people live in communities, and that capacity should be there. A citywide contractors, what our goal is for them to be a technical advisor and supporter to those 12, 14, whatever they are locally that we're having. I don't remember the number. All right? And so, as well as to provide any special needs that that clients that they may have. But the idea is to be the capacity building and support to that whole network of agencies. And I think that's what I have.
Nods of approval.
Okay.
Okay. LGBTQ plus older adults experience higher levels of social isolation, loneliness, and stigma, as we've discussed. And without traditional family support structures, they often have distinct caregiving needs. How will NYC Aging ensure that caregiving support for this community remains uninterrupted under the new caregiving RFP?
No different than anyone else. I mean, our goal is that each one of the programs has the capacity to address that. We know that to supplement the work, because we know that most LGBTQ AI communities don't have a family member and are relying on others to serve. So it's knowing that and knowing how to support those individuals with those different relationships, families or whatever we call them, to have the same kind of supports for the caregiver as we are for the care recipient.
And how is NYC Aging evaluating equity when implementing the reductions of distinct needs contracts under the new RFP?
I think we just went through that. It's building the capacity locally and having a citywide one to be a technical advisor and supporter in addition to a service provider.
Okay, so then I guess under the assumption that an equitable lens and services are being provided.
Under the assumption that if I apply for this grant and I don't have that capacity, I've got to figure out how to
meet the
get
need.
that capacity built in so that I can be a bidder and qualify for that grant.
Okay. How does NYC Aging plan to serve LGBTQ plus caregivers who don't feel safe accessing services at older adult centers?
That's a larger issue, which is how is it that we are developing, one of the things we have is the mandated training for all center staff and providers. The larger question is when do we go to the second step in terms of capacity building and training and sensitivity?
What specific protections will NYC Aging put in place for distinct needs populations? In particular, what measures will be taken to support LGBTQIA plus older adults and their caregivers?
No different than we would for any other caregiver. Just recognizing that the needs might be different and the familiar relationship might be different.
Okay, I just want to note there's a lot of concern about disruption in services, and so I want to make sure that you and your team are aware.
I think the concern centered around the fact that we had three grantors.
And now you're going to one.
And the larger concern from this perch is how do we build that into community? And how do we support communities to make sure that they can provide those services? So I'm less thinking about a contractor getting a contract than to ensuring that that capacity is built in and is spread in community as much as it can.
But
and building that.
Wouldn't it be a safe assumption to make, though, that more providers with distinct capacities would reach more people
Yeah.
than one provider?
That's not to say that any of those 3 providers can apply for grants at the local community. There's nothing prohibiting that.
Yeah.
What the model is going from a more centralized, specialized, targeted to a more community-based, integrated approach. It's not diminishing the need of either of those populations at all. If it's anything, it's saying take that locally, build that capacity locally where people live and how they live, not a centralized, that then you do. And the reality is that the 3 centralized providers had a lower participation client base than that was the driver for saying push that where the services are being delivered in community. But make sure that the capacity is there so that that special need is not lost.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I will move into public testimony. Thank you so much. And
Thank you so
congratulations to
much.
us both on our last hearing for the term
I know. Thank you.
and for the year.
Thank you. And always, thank you for your partnership. Do not give up. If anything, we've got to move this forward, and we've got to really make sure that this becomes the model.
Whether I
agent for
remain
success.
chair of this committee or not, I will never stop advocating for older adults.
And I will, in whatever perch I have, will definitely become that strong activist.
Love it. Well, then I look forward to seeing you in the streets.
See ya. Wonderful holiday for all of you.
You too. Thank you. Alrighty, I will now open the hearing for public testimony, and I want to remind members of the public that this is a government proceeding and that decorum shall be observed at all times. As such, members of the public shall remain silent at all times. The witness table is reserved for people who wish to testify. No video recording or photography is allowed from the witness table. Further, members of the public may not present audio or video recordings as testimony, but may submit transcripts of such recordings to the Sergeant-at-Arms for inclusion in the hearing record. If you wish to speak at today's hearing, please fill out an appearance card with the Sergeant-at-Arms and wait to be recognized. When recognized, you will have 2 minutes to speak on the oversight topic, social isolation among older New Yorkers. If you have a written statement or additional written testimony you wish to submit for the record, please provide a copy of that testimony to the Sergeant-at-Arms. You may also email written testimony to testimony@council.nyc.gov within 72 hours of this hearing. Audio and video recordings will not be accepted. Okay, the first panel. Jordana Weber, Mohammed Razvi, and Anita Kwok. And Jordana, we can begin with you whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm Jordana Weber, pronouns she, her, hers. I'm the Chief Program Officer at Service Program for Older People, or SPOP. Thank you, Chair Hudson, for holding this oversight hearing on the social isolation of older New Yorkers. I'm grateful for this opportunity to address the Committee on Aging today. As you've heard SPOP say throughout the years, we play a unique role in supporting the health, emotional well-being, and independence of older adults, and we've done so for more than 45 years. We are the only agency in the city that is exclusively dedicated to community-based mental health care for older adults. We provide outpatient treatment to over 1,000 people each year through individual and group therapy, assessments, medication management, and psychiatric rehabilitation. The former U.S. Surgeon General reported in 2023 that loneliness and social isolation are at epidemic levels. The oft-quoted statistics from Surgeon General Vivek Murthy's 2023 report document the impact of chronic loneliness and isolation, a 50% greater likelihood to develop dementia, and a mortality rate equal to that of a person with a 15 cigarette-a-day habit. Our SPOP Assistant Director of Social Health says it this way: older adults who do not have friends die sooner, and they die at the expense of the healthcare and social service systems designed to keep them alive. Social connection is a pillar of health and wellness because social isolation is dangerous. Falls, stroke, diabetes, suicidality, and substance use are all made worse by isolation. On the flip side, social connectedness reinforces one's sense of purpose, values, and place in community. At SPOP, we see how the most isolated and the most fragile of older adults in New York City are those living with serious mental illness, alone in a home or in a room or unhoused throughout the city. Isolation can be self-imposed as a means to keep oneself alive and safe from the harm caused by community-imposed isolation. And we know that we have a responsibility to older New Yorkers to provide behavioral and social supports that welcome them back into the community. The solution to social isolation in older adults does not have a one-size-fits-all fix, but the first step is to invest in increasing human contact and removing the barriers to connecting. We can diversify ways and places to congregate so older adults recognize their own cultural and socioeconomic reference group, teach social skills that have either gone dormant due to years of isolation or that were never effectively taught in earlier life, and we can focus on the groundbreaking technology that increases human-to-human connection and rule out the technology that doesn't. Thank you for your work on behalf of all older New Yorkers and for this opportunity to testify.
Thank you so much.
Hello. So I have a written testimony which is requesting support for mental health counseling and so forth. But what I want to talk about is other things that are happening within the community that you alluded towards earlier. That is, under the current administration, we're actually teaching our seniors how to react against police encounters. What's your responsibility just in case if there is an ICE raid in your neighborhood or things happen and you're confronted. The sad part is when I was growing up, my mother said, Mo, your name is Mohammed, you're a Pakistani, you have to work 3 times as hard to succeed. Sadly, I have to tell some of my seniors, because of their name, because of their identity, because how they look, it's 3 times likely that they will be encountering such incidences. I can't explain to you how sad it is that I have to let my seniors and teach my seniors, show them what a warrant looks like. Give them examples of this is a warrant. And how many seniors come to us that are so afraid, and especially when there's a incident that's happening within the community. I kid you not, my seniors, our vans start loading the seniors and just take them home. And even some of my staff members who are legal workers, everything, they're so afraid. The fear that this has caused within the community, it's unbelievable. And the mental, as everyone is mentioning, we have 2 counselors unfunded, and we have been continuously trying to work with our seniors in group sessions. DIFTA and the commissioner have done so much. From the commissioner to Alan and to Eileen, just want to re-emphasize how important it is that we need to come together even stronger, because I don't know what's going to happen next month when the new administration is, coming up. But I'm looking forward to, please, whatever you need from us to be there. We're there for you.
Thank you so much. And can you just state your full name for the record?
Oh, I'm sorry. My name is Mohammed Razvi. I'm the CEO and Executive Director of Council of People's Organization, the largest halal food pantry and halal meals on wheels in the country.
Thank you so much. Anita?
Thank you, Chair Hudfitson, for convening this oversight hearing on social isolation among older adults. My name is Anita Kwok, a policy analyst at United Neighborhood Houses, a member organization of settlement houses across New York. 20 years ago, UNH released a report that highlighted the risk of social isolation among older New Yorkers, and since then, we've been working to advance programs and funding solutions to address this. Our research demonstrates that investing in community-based programs and services are a clear antidote. Settlement houses and other CBOs, which offer a range of services in an integrated setting, are ideally suited to support older adults with their intimate knowledge of their communities and participation in their local network. Unfortunately, the essential services that the settlement houses offer are underfunded by government contracts. OACs haven't received a rate increase for congregate meals since the last procurement in 2021, despite the following years of inflation. Congregate meals bring older adults together, directly addressing social isolation while addressing food insecurity as well. In addition, a multi-year agreement for the city to fund a COLA is expiring next year, and even with COLAs, direct service providers who support older adults are chronically underpaid, making retention and recruitment especially for multilingual staff, really difficult. With the new administration coming in next year, it's essential that the city budget addresses longstanding underfunding of these contracts and include ongoing COLAs and adequate wages for staff. Finally, we're really excited for this. UNH and our advocacy partners are launching a NORC in every neighborhood campaign because we believe that NORCs are a really sustainable and cost-effective ways to address older adult needs and combat social isolation. We really must grow these services to support more older adults, and we'll release a companion analysis of the NORC landscape in New York City soon, and it'll show the over 24 neighborhoods in the city that lack a NORC despite thousands of older adults in those neighborhoods. This is an analysis campaign and a budget campaign that will seek $10 million in the FY27 budget to create approximately 30 new NORCs. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Okay. I have a question for SPOP, and then I have a few other questions that anybody can answer. So you serve 1,000 clients annually. What proportions come to SPOP due to isolation, and how many remain disconnected, outside of SPOP?
So the majority of people that come to SPOP are coming to treat conditions related to depressive disorders. We are treating them both telephonically through telehealth and in person throughout 20 satellite clinics throughout the city. About 70%, including people who are homebound, will receive Zoom or telephonic services. So I mentioned our somewhat new Assistant Director of Social Health. She and her very small team of 1.5 will go out to the homes and teach people how to Zoom so that they can connect to not only the telehealth services that we can offer, but to other kinds of social services. We're also having them, when they are anxious, to get to an older adult center, if at all possible. For example, if they're not necessarily bed-bound, but they're homebound in terms of limited mobility, but they can get 2 or 3 blocks away, we'll bring them over to their local older adult center. So I would say the majority of older adults that come to us, because they come with depressive conditions, are also dealing with social isolation. Some of them we're able to help connect, and some we're still in the process of trying to outreach.
Got it. Thank you. And then for all of you, what role should NYC Aging or DOHMH be playing that they aren't currently?
I think they need to allocate more resources for the mental health counseling and because they had this thing where you called in to the city and, all of a sudden you're going to be directed to the mental health counselor or something. It didn't work. And I think having cultural competency community groups being allocated, even one counselor, just to start with, it can help, because if there's one staff counselor, that counselor can actually get other social workers to work under them and get volunteers, from the colleges and the social work network. It is possible. I think that's something you need to emphasize, and especially at these, with DIFTA older sites, I think it'll be great. I think it will help, because I can't even tell you how many seniors just we need to talk, and we have that room just to sit down. And then if my counselor's too busy, I got to try to make those appointments for them.
Does anyone else want to answer? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think the more crossover between DOHMH and NYC Aging, the better. Many people who are living with serious mental illness are now aging and need all kinds of services and access to a continuum of care and a community. The more cross-programming opportunities that exist, the more inclusive the city can be and meet some of those multi-pronged needs that tend to show up in humans that have more than one need at a time.
And adding on to that, UNH is a really big fan of the geriatric mental health initiative specifically.
Okay, great. Thank you all. Where specifically are you seeing breakdowns? Are they in hospitals, managed care, public housing? Anywhere else? In terms of the connections between NYC Aging and DOHMH?
Yes, and yes. I think the fact is there doesn't necessarily need to be competition between models. I think there are such benefits to community modeling, and there are benefits in terms of reimbursement and sustainability to billing models. Older adults, particularly those with mental health needs, are going to need a little bit of all of it together combined. So the more there can be catching of things that can't be reimbursed, things that can be grant funded, if Medicare and Medicaid and third-party insurance won't cover it, the better, the more expansive the services that can be offered.
I want to allude towards some of the social daycares. What they're doing is they're taking the city money or state money and then providing service, or sometimes they're not providing the service. If you're able to, have a real concrete conversation where these services can be provided by nonprofits, groups that actually are seeing those patients, I think it would be much better. Where the fee for service, it's a sliding scale. It's okay, but at least we're able to hire the staff to do that work. We're a non-for-profit. We are not a for-profit entity.
Right.
Many of us are not. And that's where I think you can help to focus them. If they can do that, I think that'll be great. It's a win-win situation because all these social daycares are being investigated. And I kid you not, if you look it up, it's being investigated all over and they're shutting down. There's so many of them being for sale, and it's because they frauded the system. And nonprofit entities should be allowed, or somehow there should be a mechanism that we should be working to that.
Thank you. Do any of your organizations receive referrals from the city?
Yes, we do. We receive from the 311 call and, from DIFTA, and it goes through the whole system, yes.
Ours do as well. 7 out of our 20 satellite clinics are DGMH clinics through the Geriatric Mental Health Initiative. Through the Department of Aging. Geriatric Mental Health Program. We have another program, the Geriatric Mental Health Initiative, which is state funded. And we also sometimes will have council people calling us with some of their constituents that are really struggling, needing mental health services, and we're always happy to take those referrals.
Thank you. I've been one of them. And we appreciate your partnership always. Okay.
We're not a direct service provider, so
Right.
we don't do it. Yeah.
Okay.
If anything, we'll refer to our members.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you so much for your testimony and for answering the questions. The next panel will be Linda Hoffman, Katie Foley, and Ali Hoden-Beyer. Or Ali, sorry. Okay. Okay. Linda, do you want to go first? Thank
Good
you.
afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Great to be here and see you all. And I feel like I am preaching to the choir, as always. On behalf of our Board of Directors at New York Foundation for Senior Citizens, we deeply appreciate your ensuring the continuation of our home sharing program by supporting $250,000 from the Speaker's citywide budget, an allocation from your individual and borough delegations, and discretionary budgets for the next fiscal year. And our program provides the only services of their type in New York City and prevent isolation. So our free home sharing program, as you all know, is implemented by social workers who use their professional skills to successfully match older adults, who we call hosts, with extra space in their homes or houses or apartments to share with responsible, compatible guests, and who are in need of affordable housing and in need of giving up feelings of isolation and loneliness. And during the last first 5 months of this fiscal year, we've matched 60 hosts and guests in 30 home share arrangements. Last year, we did 100 hosts and guests in 50 home share arrangements at the cost of $3,900 for one-shot deals. and we provided affordable housing. At the same time, we help older adults maintain their housing and remain in their homes. We also, as a component of this program, provide more help with, again, and preventing social isolation by having helping caregivers to take some time off and helping people who are alone who are above the Medicaid level to receive help in their own homes to remain there by providing home care and home attendance for $19.10 an hour when the local agencies in New York City are charging $30 to $35 an hour. It last year cost us to help each of these individuals $553 a person. Our study that we did from the July 1, 2024 to June 30th, 25 fiscal year found that with a total of $200,000 we received from the city council last year, we saved the city $1,767,000 in Medicaid expenses by preventing the need for institutionalization and also by preventing homelessness and helping people find affordable housing, along with providing the city with significant annual savings in Medicaid and other expenses. Our home sharing and respite care program enables older adults to maintain, as I said, and remain in their own homes, obtain affordable housing, prevent feelings of isolation and loneliness, and prevent institutionalization in nursing and adult homes, and provides also jobs for home care workers. Our program is totally dependent on government funding each and every year to continue to fulfill an ever-increasing number of requests for its services. And to ensure that that happens again next year, we would be very grateful for your support, as I mentioned earlier. We do require at least, hopefully, $250,000 from the city speaker's budget, plus allocations from individual and borough delegation discretionary budgets. Thanks very much in advance for any help that you can provide and any support that you can provide.
Absolutely. And thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
the work that you do and for your testimony.
Hello, my name is Katie Foley. I'm a managing director at Self Help Community Services. Thank you for the opportunity to talk about social isolation today. For nearly 90 years, Self Help has been dedicated to helping older adults live with dignity and independence, serving 25,000 people. And our legacy is rooted in our work with Holocaust survivors, giving us the lens of trauma, compassionate individual care. We see the growing crisis of social isolation every single day. And like has been stated here many times, we understand it's not just a feeling of loneliness. This is a mental, emotional, and physical condition. We recognize the importance of our older adult centers, our NORCs, our social programs. These are essential and vital programs for reducing social isolation. But we also understand that there isn't a one-size-fits-all model. And we serve a lot of homebound seniors, as well as people who are effectively homebound during extreme weather, which you alluded to earlier. And that's why we've integrated virtual programming through our virtual senior center. And there was a recent article in the Washington Post that talked about that there's actually benefits to being online for older adults, that it does build connection and engagement for the population. So we support flexible funding through NYC Aging community-based programs to allow older adult centers and other community-based programs to incorporate a hybrid model to serve the folks who can come in person through their in-person activities, and also have virtual options for members who are homebound, and to be able to expand the community and comprehensive support system. Our virtual senior center offers live interactive classes that bring community directly into somebody's home, on their tablet, on their computer, and it's a space for friendship, for learning, and for engagement. It is not a substitute for in-person activities, but It is a crucial addition for people who cannot participate in in-person activities. Thank you so much for the opportunity to testify, and we'd love to show you the Virtual Senior Center demo if you're interested.
Totally. Thank you so much.
Thank you for this opportunity to discuss social isolation among older adults. My name is Allie Hoden-Bear, and I'm the Chief Program Officer at DeRote in Manhattan. I use she, her pronouns. DeRote is unique among nonprofits serving older adults in that our sole mission is to prevent loneliness and isolation. We provide seniors with opportunities to connect socially with others and feel a sense of purpose and belonging. DeRote has deep expertise and a track record in building programs that foster social community. A powerful example is our Friendly Visiting Program, for which we match hundreds of trained volunteers with older adults for regular in-home visits. These one-on-one visits are profoundly enriching for both the seniors and volunteers. Key to the program's success is having our team of social workers behind the scenes to assess older adults, interview volunteers, and then carefully match them based on shared interests. We offer several other one-on-one programs, including caring calls, in which volunteers and older adults build remarkable connections through regular telephone visits. DeRote's intergenerational programs bring groups of older adults together with teens for activities. By fostering meaningful connections, these programs lead both generations to feel seen, valued, and part of a community. Finally, DeRote offers a range of cultural activities and lifelong learning for older adults with in-person, phone, and online formats to serve older adults who vary in interests, mobility, lack of transportation or Wi-Fi, or have different needs in bad weather. Whether it's an arts workshop, book club, museum tour, or tech help, we intentionally weave social connection into every program we offer. As a city, we can ease or prevent social isolation among older adults wherever they are. The key is putting social connection at the heart of all we do and providing the financial resources necessary for staff with the knowledge and expertise and the flexibility to make these programs work well. We're grateful that the Council, DFTA, and legislation from both Republicans and Democrats has elevated this issue, making it both critical and bipartisan. Thank you again for the opportunity to speak today.
Thank you so much, and thank you all again for your testimony. We will now move to virtual testimony. Please wait for your name to be called to testify, and please select unmute when prompted. Elizabeth Lee.
You may begin.
Hi, good afternoon. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes, thank you.
Great. Hi, I'm actually here on behalf of Visions. My name is Elizabeth Lee. I'm testifying on behalf of our CEO, Molly Egan. And thank you again for having us and touching upon this important topic. Vision Services for the Blind and Visually Impaired, a 100-year-old New York City nonprofit delivering free rehabilitation, workforce, youth, and older adult services to people who are blind and visually impaired. I want to begin with a simple truth. Everything we know about social isolation among older adults is magnified when you lose your vision. As our city population ages, the 4 leading causes of vision loss, age-related macular degeneration, which our CEO has, diabetic retinopathy, glaucoma, and cataracts are all rising, especially among communities already facing health disparities. Vision loss is not an isolated medical condition. It is a gateway to disconnection. Without support, older adults who lose their sight often lose far more. Their mobility, their confidence, their access to community, and the daily interactions that make life meaningful. When an older adult New Yorker can't read mail, navigate their building safely, cook a meal, or leave home independently, the risk of social isolation skyrockets. And if you overlay vision loss on top of poverty, chronic illness, unsafe housing, or limited family support, isolation becomes almost guaranteed. At Visions, we see this every day, and we also see what is possible when the right supports are in place. Our staff provide in-home vision rehabilitation training, orientation and mobility instruction, assistive technology, coaching, and social programs that help older adults and also caregivers remain active and connected. At our Vision Center on Aging in Manhattan, New York City's first and only older adult center specifically designed for people who are blind and visually impaired, participants regain skills, rebuild community, and rediscover independence. For many,
Thank you.
it
Your
is
time
only...
expired.
Okay,
You can
thank you so much.
you can finish the end there.
Oh, Okay, I'm going to just focus on the 4 bullets. Funding for more in-home vision rehabilitation and mobility training, expanding accessible older adult centers, and also continuing our caregiver and community programs for those definitely who recently lost their sight, invest in assistive technology and training, and ensuring every city-funded aging initiative includes accessibility for the blind and visually impaired New Yorkers. So I thank you again for allowing us to testify.
Thank you so much for your testimony, and thank you to everyone who has testified. If there's anyone present in the room or on Zoom that has not had the opportunity to testify, please raise your hand. Seeing no hands, I would like to note that written testimony, which will be reviewed in full by committee staff, may be submitted to the record up to 72 hours after the close of this hearing by emailing it to testimony@council.nyc.gov. Thanks to everyone who has testified. Thanks to the administration. And thanks, of course, to the staff for this committee in their work in preparing for today's hearing on social isolation among older New Yorkers, which we know is increasingly more prevalent now during the cold months and also the holidays. Thanks to everyone, and this hearing is adjourned.